Looking for a new car or expert service? Visit Limerick Motor Centre, your main Hyundai dealer on the Ballysimon Road. A proud family business for over 30 years, we're Ireland's longest-serving Hyundai dealer. With sales, service, parts and finance all under one roof, our dedicated team delivers value, expertise and customer care you can trust. Call 061 417 141 or visit limerickmotorcentre.ie. Limerick Motor Centre, driving with you for over 30 years.
Impression of the game you get out of it, what you put into it. It's like a walk of life. If you're good enough, go out and get it, no more about it.
Not so much control in the centre of the field from Kilkenny as Richie Bennett sends it high and over the bar.
Your mother sends you down to the shop for a pound's worth of goods and she gives you 50 pence. You can't get the pound's worth of goods, can you?
Just about kept in. Oh, well done, Johnny Buckley. To do that to Tomas O'Shea, he deserves to score from here. One of the highlights of the Sunday game.
Limerick went out there from the word go today. No more about it. They made all the running, that was it. Put the ball over the bar and the back of it, and that's it. No ifs, no buts.
Is there much time left? We have a couple of injuries. Here comes Kieran Curry. Curry leaving the charge of the right brigade. 45 metres out. He's a chance to score. He's put it hard. He's put it over.
There's no sympathy in this game for anybody.
That never gets old, does it? No sympathy in this game for anyone, indeed. You're very welcome to Treaty Talk. We're here for episode 372, and as ever, we're here in association with Hyundai, the Limerick Motor Centre, the main Hyundai dealers in Limerick. For more, see limerickmotorcentre.ie. Tom Clancy, of course, in the hot seat, and joined once again by the Weekly Observer and Vale Star newspapers, Miche&aacute. And Matt, greetings to you. We've plenty to be down about this week. We've plenty to be up about this week. So yet again, another crazy week of Gaelic games for Limerick teams across the country.
Yeah, crazy game, crazy weekend last weekend, and of course, so much came together, and you know, there were so many. Actually, there were defining games in all four codes. In senior hurling, senior football, senior camogie, and ladies football, and also in the Munster under 20 football championship. So basically, you know, taking a global view at it or an overview of it, it was a disappointing weekend. Now, both senior teams won. Limerick, the senior hurling team, was very, very important, but alas, the win for the senior football was too little, too late, and we'll delve further into that later in the program, Tom. But look, I suppose the big one for the weekend was to qualify for the National Hurling League final, which like Limerick did, but they were put under pressure to do it, and I know we'll be discussing it in greater detail. You know, it was a weekend which our two football teams were relegated, our senior football and our ladies football team. Our camogie team bowed out of the National Camogie League, but not before having a very, very spirited campaign, Tom, in which there was a lot of positives, and again we'll be delving into that. And we bowed out, of course, of the Munster under 20 football championship as well. But there's still quite a bit to be played for the under 20s, and as I said, we'll be dwelling on all that as the program goes along.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was a very busy weekend for everyone following the green and white, no matter which code you're most interested in. So we'll get into all of that. Matt, on Sunday afternoon, I suppose it's not Limerick related, but it's certainly GA adjacent and GA related. The sad news, I was actually doing commentary on Live 95 Radio, which has been a rarity for me, which I was delighted to get the opportunity, and suddenly I had a ping on my phone to say there was breaking news nationally that Michael Lester, the well-renowned broadcaster, most notably, of course, with the Sunday game and its other iterations, had sadly passed 71 years of age. Certainly, you know, Matt, we're of different generations, but I don't think this man was defined by any generation. He was someone who, if you consumed Gaelic games of any year, basically up until 2018, when he stepped away from the broadcasting thing, he was there. He seemed to be omnipresent, a star. And if you listen to the tributes this week, he seems like an absolute gentleman to boot, and someone who really much dominated our screens for so long, 30 odd years, I think, in the seat.
Yeah, Tom, I actually had the pleasure of meeting him once and enjoying a cup of tea with him and the late former minister and TD, Michael Noonan, down in the Flying Boat Museum in Foynes when we happened to be in there, and he came in visiting, and we linked up and we had a great conversation with him. And his knowledge of GA was simply phenomenal, Tom, and that was coming across. Even though I think it was a bit of a tug of war in his mind between GA and rallying, because he was huge into rallying, as we discovered that day, and we got a fair insight into what his real hobby was. But as a presenter, he was first class, and there have been snapshots shown there on Facebook and on Twitter and everything since he died, and you just realise how good he was. And he was 34 years in the hot seat, Tom. And, you can't say that people got tired of Michael Lester. They didn't, because he did an absolutely excellent job. And like the nice guy that came across on television on a Sunday night was exactly the guy that was Michael Lester. He's a huge loss, first of all, to his wife and to his family. And he's gone all too soon, Tom, at 71 years of age. But he has left an indelible legacy in broadcasting, particularly in GAA broadcasting. And he was such an important member of the GAA family, if you like, such an integral part of it, of the GAA family, and there was only one Michael Lester. There will be only one Michael Lester. He epitomised everything that was good about broadcasting. Knowledge of the GAA was absolutely, simply phenomenal, and the way that he sought to extract the best out of the various pundits that he had with him, and the way that he sought to ensure that they stayed on track. Tom, he's left an indelible legacy, and the GA and broadcasting world is so much poorer this week for the passing of Michael Lester.
Yeah, that's for sure. I suppose the Limerick supporters can now recite that his last All-Ireland final on TV, hurling final, that was in 2018 against his native Galway. I'm sure he was pulling his hair out at times, but ever the professional, I'm sure he was quickly congratulating Limerick. So he bowed out from after the All-Ireland final, a football final, a couple of weeks later in late August 2018, or was it, sorry, maybe just early September 2018. So Limerick are linked to that story. From my own point of view, obviously, as I said, a bit younger than you, Matt, but I can remember, I'm actually here in Florina recording this evening. I can remember coming in in sunny afternoons during my childhood, coming in, you'd have known the match was on at 2:30 or 3:30 or whatever, and you come in and you'd get that bit of a nice sunny afternoon. You come in, and my father used to have the curtains drawn to keep the glare off the TV, and there would be Michael Lester with the likes of Joe Brawley or Cyril Farrell or Gerlach Dan, these guys, Pat Spillane, whoever it was, and you'd tune in for those guys because they were the face of the GA, and I suppose he transcended three decades really, and managed to carry it. As you said, no one was ever saying this guy is too old for it, this guy has gone past it. There was none of that. He bowed out in his own terms, which was great to see as well. And I'm sure enjoyed the last, unfortunately, what it turned out to be the last few years of his life with family as well. But as you said as well, known for his rallying prowess as well. So not just one hit wonder with GA. He was involved in the rally scene as well as a driver and a co-pilot, I think, as well.
As a face for the GA, he projected an image that was excellent for the association. Once you'd see him, you'd say to yourself, I want to be involved in that. I want to slice of that. Like he projected such an image, and he projected such a knowledge, and he projected such positivity, Tom, and generosity with his time. I think the South Liberties had a post up there, how he came down to do a function for him, and I think it was free gratis. And if you recall, I think just 2 or 3 years ago, Limerick had him down. Was it for the 50th anniversary of the 1973 All-Ireland final?
So, it was around this time in 2020 or 2023. Yeah, I think in the Strand Hotel, wasn't it?
Yes,
and Michael was there. Yeah.
And he came down. So, like the man had a generosity of spirit as well to add to all the great characters he had. Tom, he had every character that you could hope for, and like not only RTE but the GA were blessed to have him as the front of the GA.
Yeah, absolutely well said. May he rest in peace. And I suppose, obviously, just we felt it was right to give our 2 cents on it, and obviously be sadly missed by everyone who knew him. Matt, moving along, we'll come to the action in a minute. I suppose just to flag that Limerick GA has, I suppose, has established a referees development committee to address what is now they're describing as a critical and escalating issue across the county, and that is the lack of referees. The committee is led by James Ryan, of course, GA Games Development Officer Pat Donnelly, coaching and games officer, and includes members Patsy Coffey, Phil D, Mike Sexton, Brendan Stack, who will be familiar in referee circles down the years, and Margaret Hannon as well, who's part of the county board in Nogue. And I suppose, Matt, they're highlighting the issue. In 2014, the county had approximately 110 referees. It was north of 100 referees anyway. And unfortunately, this is down to 50 now in 2026. So as you see, in the 12 years or so, it has more than halved. With the age profile of referees now increasing, there's insignificant number of younger officials coming through, and the most stark statistic for me is that there's 31 clubs across this county. I think we've only maybe 60 odd. We're shy of 70 clubs anyway, and near enough half of them do not have a referee registered under their banner. And this is it is a current operational problem, they say, not just a future risk. It's not something that's going to affect Limerick GA in 2027, 28, 29. It's something that will very much affect Limerick in 2026. And indeed in the coming weeks and months as we get into a real busy time. So look, it's been very, very disappointing. There has been a shortage of officials, Matt, as we know, at the business end of adult championships in terms of linesmen and umpires and these things. So that has raised its head as well. So I suppose they're looking to recruit, they're looking to drive on. And I've been asked to make listeners and the viewers aware that they can contact Patsy Coffey through refereesadministrator.limerick@gaa.ie. So I'll just say that again, refereesadministrator.limerick@gaa.ie, or indeed just pop a comment onto our social media, and I'll gladly point you in the direction of it. But Matt, a lot of facts and figures in there. I've said a lot about it, but it's a real concern. It's not something that is scaremongering. It is a real concern in our county for our games going forward.
Absolutely, Tom. And I just give you a statistic, which is I actually have given it about 2 weeks ago here in this medium. Like, there are 92 teams in the county hurling league this year. 92 clubs.
Yeah, 92. That's rising.
Potential 46 matches in any given weekend.
Yeah, that's Matt, that's rising to 100 teams for the championship, I think, or 90, maybe 99.
Yes,
there's a couple of second and third strings not affiliated for the league.
Not going in the hurling, not going in the league.
Can you imagine a championship weekend where we have to fulfill, between maybe a Thursday and a Sunday or Monday, we have to fulfill 50 adult games, not to mind everything else that's on around the place? Yeah,
no, and you've got to take into account you have Born and Nogue, you have Camogie, you have ladies football, and of course
men's football as well.
We'll have different hurling and football weekends, I know,
Yes.
And I think the ladies have it structured the same. I know that the county leagues, the county senior leagues are starting in ladies football this weekend, and the county Camogie Senior League is starting next weekend, so that they're going to be staggered out week on, week off, and hurling and football week on, week off. That eases it, but it doesn't ease the overall problem, because there are a huge amount of games being played at underage already, because we fail a Pell, the Nog coming down, and we're going to be straight into the championships in Borden and Og over the coming couple of weeks. Like, you know, I honestly think, you know where I stand on the abuse of referees, Tom. I don't need to say it anymore, and I'll say it here again, Tom, and you know, they can laugh at me out there if they like, and I'll challenge anybody that we in County Limerick are blessed to have the quality of referees that we have. We have men of the highest integrity and the highest quality at what they do. And but the abuse of referees has to stop. Now the GA are taking steps. They've taken steps in football already, and they're about to take steps in hurling.
It'll be in effect. I think it's already in effect in Limerick within the leagues, and it'll be certainly officially in effect this weekend.
This weekend,
yeah.
You know,
That's
and bringing it forward 30 meters.
Yeah.
I bring it forward 50. You know, because
well,
we've got to stamp it out. It's a problem. And I'm absolutely convinced, Tom, and I might be naive in this, that we would have a lot more referees on board were it not for the abuse that's coming from the sideline.
Yeah.
And led in in a lot of cases by officials, Tom.
Well, that's the thing now. That's the thing with the dissent rule. I saw it in football last year. I would have played in some games where attempted influence from the sideline, shall we put it that way, was punished. Certainly even in the team I played in, it was punished against us, and it was punished against our opposition in different games at different times. And it seems to happen once in a game where a team is caught once, and then they realise, hi Johnny or Mary or Frank down the line, shut it up basically, because you're costing our team here and you're doing nothing to help our cause. So,
well, Tom, you had a classic example of it in your Munster Championship semi-final.
That's what I was thinking.
Absolutely classic example of it. Like, and just to recount for visitors or for viewers, Ballyfahan were awarded a free about 40 metres out. There was considerable dissent from the sideline. The referee allowed the free to be taken. The player that took it kicked over a 2-pointer. The referee went over, booked the offender on the sideline, and came back and gave a second free from the same position. And the same player did the same thing. Yeah. So 4 points in 1 minute.
Yes, he took the ball off me and brought it back out, cancelled the kick out as is per rule, and brought it out. So look, it's coming in hurling as well. So if you see managers now this year giving verbals or dissent towards officials, they'll be punished. But that is not the only reason, Matt, why maybe we have a shortage of referees around the county. I think there's probably a myth there that if you're being a referee now, you're going to be tied to ref 150 games a year. Now, there are referees in that county, and credit to them, who would referee that number of games or close to it, or sometimes over it. But like personally, last year I was a registered referee in Limerick. I refereed, I think, something like 10 Borden and O games and maybe 12 adult games. Thereabouts, I think approximately 20 games for the year anyway, whatever way it fell. Couple of challenge matches here and there. I wasn't tied to it, as people know. They'll see me in different capacities at games. Obviously, refereeing isn't my sole priority, and I have been involved, still playing, and obviously still reporting on games. So people do not have to give up their, I suppose, involvement in the game in other capacities. You know, they can still be coaching the under-12s down the road in their local club. They can then referee, you know, 1 game a week or 2 games a week. And I suppose it's been pointed out to me, if they do get a batch of new referees, and, you know, if they got 10 new referees and they referee 20 games each, that would be 200 games refereed, instead of asking the existing referees to divvy that up between them, which is just, you know, isn't feasible in a lot of cases, because we have a lot of referees who ref within our county, then we have a handful of referees who referee outside the county. So their volume is already increased with Munster games, and in some cases even higher than that as well. So it's, you know, it's a real problem, and it's something that needs to be addressed. And maybe someone out there thinks they would like to give it a try. They should certainly do the course. The course is well delivered by Brendan Stack. Normally, I'm sure he might be the man fronting it up again. Even if you just did it, you'd learn an awful lot more about the rules, and you could dip your toe in then with regards to refereeing, and see if you like it. And you know, you never know where it'll go from there.
But Tom, 31 clubs without a referee, when the ambition is that every club would at least provide one referee, is a damning statistic. And I would appeal to those 31 clubs, please, please, please look at your membership, look at your resources, see have you anybody that could take up the whistle. It's very, very important. Like, there were games not played in our county at underage level last year because there was no referee available. And I make a very clear point. It was not that the referee didn't turn up. It was that there wasn't a referee available to be appointed in the first place. Every single referee was spoken for. And we have a referee stepping back this year now, and we wish him the best of luck and thank him for his effort. And that's Kieran Flaherty of Monaleen.
Yes,
who has stepped down this year from refereeing. But you know, it's a critical situation, Tom, when you have games that cannot go ahead because referees are not available. And they're not available, Tom, because there are so many games on.
Yeah, they can only do so many, and the players will only play one game in a weekend generally anyway, and some referees will do 2, 3 and sometimes 4 if needs be, which is not really great. It's great for one sense, but you know, it's a challenge. Okay, so look, do get in touch with the email address I called out, or do indeed get in touch with ourselves. We'll point you in the right direction, and you never know, you could do like Johnny Murphy. You could head all the way to the All-Ireland final, or maybe not everyone wants to do that. You could be the best under 16 referee in Ireland, and you could ref, you know, 50 or 60 under 16 games every season in Limerick in hurling and football, and that could be where your demand is needed and greatest. Yep.
But you see the pathway now. Timmy McGrath's doing a number of county games. Kieran Ganna's doing a county games. Jonathan Hayes is doing a whole myriad of county games.
Yeah. Eamon Stapleton, Donegal O'Callaghan, Johnny Murphy.
Donegal O'Callaghan is doing a rake of county games. David Deedy has done a county game. So like there is a pathway there. I have no doubt Dahi de Bourke is somebody that will be doing county games before long. And there is a pathway there if you want to become really involved in it. But Tom, the example you quoted of yourself is something that there are an awful lot of people around this county could do what you're doing, because you know, if people are afraid of the level of commitment, talk to you and see how you do it.
Yeah, that's it. And there's never, in fairness to the board or the county board, they will never put a gun to a referee's head and say, we need you now to referee a game. There might be sometimes a call that says, Jesus, you could really help us out here, but they will, at the end of the day, there's no contract. It's not a job per se. They can't force anyone to referee a game, but they will, you know, they basically, the way it's working at the moment is you get a text and say, are you available to ref this game? If you're not, I got one last night and I'm away on holidays when that date is up. So I politely replied with an N for no, and then they'll go and search for another referee, and it's as simple as that. And you know, there's no skin off my nose. They're not saying is this fella ever around or whatever. But no, maybe they're saying that, but it isn't an issue. And look, everyone is the referee are a band of brothers as they are at the moment, because they're all male, but they're all working together to improve the standards and keep standards as high as possible. And anyone out there would seamlessly fall into that, and could certainly serve the purpose. Anyway, Matt, we've so much.
I'm a long time in this game. I'm over 60 years involved in this game. I've never seen a referee go out to wrong anybody. I've never seen a referee going out to make a wrong decision.
Yeah.
In all of that time, tis extraordinary. I've never seen it, you know, and that's why I say we have referees of the highest caliber, and full credit we have to say to Patsy Coffey, who is the coordinator he has an unenviable task in trying to ensure that it's down to the situation now that he'll have enough of referees for as many games as possible.
Yeah, that's it. And look, it is a reality. The final point of it is a reality that adult games as well as board and all games will be postponed this season, and it will cause upheaval to people's plans, you know, and clubs' plans. So people need to seeking their chip in where possible. And as I said, if a referee can only do 20 games a year, that's 20 games more that are, are refereed by an official referee and all the rest of it. So that's certainly one to keep an eye on.
We certainly appeal to the 31 clubs, Tom.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
question of examining your conscience here on this one.
Yeah, and I don't think the county board want to start punishing clubs for not having a referee, but that may have to come to fruition. Anyway, let's move along. Action on the field. We'll start with the positive anyway, Matt. I think the one that people will have certainly had eyes on Saturday evening, whether they were among the 14,000 in the Gaelic grounds or they were among the many more, I'm sure, listening on our local radio or indeed watching on TG4. Limerick are into the National League final. They'll be chasing a 15th title in the next couple of weeks when they face Cork. But my God, Matt, they gave us one big scare. They looked at the end as if Galway might have turned this one, but Limerick scrambled the ball away and hold on to win by 2 points.
Yeah, it was certainly nail-biting at the finish, Tom. I suppose it's fair to say that the defining period was the 20 minutes before half-time when Limerick absolutely dominated and went in leading at half-time by 10 points. But, and I don't think for 1 minute that Limerick dismissed the challenge of Galway or the likelihood of the type of challenge that they were going to present. But there's one message that has come loud and clear to me is that Galway are a force to be reckoned with. No question at all about that. There was a lot of questions raised after they hitting 35 points against Kilkenny about Kilkenny players being sick and all this sort of stuff. Micheál O'Donoghue has built a new look Galway team, which are going to be very, very exciting. Maybe this year will probably be a year too soon for them, or maybe 2 years too soon for them, but Galway are certainly on the right track. But so are Limerick, Tom. And if you take the overall game and the second half in particular, like when, things went off, it's a bit of an exaggeration to say things went off the rails for Limerick, but Galway made more progress but it overall it was the wake-up call that Limerick probably needed, because since the defeat to Waterford in the opening round, the trajectory has been up all the way, and it certainly was on the way up until half-time the last day. And it isn't that Limerick really played poorly in the second half, I'd say, Tom, but Galway really found a new level. And it's a game that I think going into the league final that Limerick will have benefited considerably from. And I certainly, going into the league final, Tom, would prefer to be going in with the game against Galway under my belt than the game against Offaly under my belt. Because what did Cork learn against Offaly? I would say nothing.
Well, they learned they have a hell of a lot of supporters, Matt.
Yeah.
If they didn't know that already, to be fair.
Yeah.
Nearly 20,000 at a dead rubber game, or kind of a dead rubber game for them, really. But you're right. So I think Limerick will be, John Kiley, you probably saw the interview afterwards on our channel here in Sporting Limerick. But he did say that he was glad of it in the end. Obviously, you want to win a game. At the end of the day, they did win the game, but he was glad, that the questions were asked. Some answers were given, not all the answers maybe that I'm sure he wanted. A bit of a concern, maybe. Would you agree that Limerick conceded 22 points in a half of hurling? I don't think that ever happened.
That would be a concern, and I suppose the number of turnovers in the second half, Tom, and the accuracy of Galway, and you could say like that the efficiency of Galway, had a certain element of luck against Kilkenny, but they repeated it in the Gaelic grounds.
Yeah, they've scored 76 points in 2 matches, no goals with it, 35 and 31.
They're just efficient, and they've got very exciting players. Jason Rabbit and Aaron Nyland, Keane Daniels, Killian Trayers, and these are all new players, Tom, but the Mannion brothers and Conor Whelan, to have those in among them, Galway are certainly, Tom, on a very, very much of an upward trajectory. But our concern here is Limerick, and Limerick's task was to get to the National League final. Now, there was a lot of nail biting at the finish. They completed the job, but they raised a number of questions. And I've no doubt that John Kiley, Paul Kinnerk and the management team will be working on those questions over the coming 2 weeks ahead of the league final. But it was the right time to get those questions.
Yeah,
and you got really tested and won the match. And if anything, Tom, I suppose one thing John Kiley has learned or has been reconfirmed him is that the resilience of the team hasn't diminished in the slightest over the years, for the simple reason that, when their backs were to the wall at the end, the way they defended that last ball, it was just superb.
Yeah, I think it was first Kyle Hayes and then maybe William O'Donoghue. I'm not sure got the second block in. But...
what a team effort to get it away. So, huge positives in the first half. And overall, Tom, you would have to say that and I don't like singling out individuals, but we're seeing Aaron Gillan heading back to his best, which is a huge, huge plus for Limerick. Going 4 points all from play last weekend. But Limerick, they were irresistible, Tom, in the second quarter.
Yeah. What about Cathal O'Neill though? 3 goals in as many games.
We've been saying about Cathal O'Neill, Tom, when people will say that I've heard people saying up to last week and for along the league campaign that Cathal O'Neill is likely to break into the team for the champion. Cathal O'Neill has already broken into the Limerick team.
Yeah.
And Cathal O'Neill is becoming a more and more and more important figure on the Limerick team as the games go by. And I thought his performance was simply phenomenal, Tom. And he came out of minor, and he hit the senior stage with huge expectation about him, concerning him, Tom. And he took him a bit of time to settle at senior level, but by God, is he key part of Limerick.
Yeah, he sure is. And he's a real goal threat. I mean, you go back to 2023, he got that goal against Cork down at the same end, and he's after getting 3 goals in 3 games. And this is a guy who doesn't play in the inside line. He's coming from deep, and it's a real threat, and it'll really concern teams going forward. And I think Cork will be alerted to it now as much as anyone. But
Tom, watch his goal last Saturday night. If you get
I did many times.
Because from the time he got possession, Tom, there was only one thing in his head: the way he accelerated and the power, the way he absolutely seared through the Galway defence. There was only going to be one outcome.
Yeah, to some finish as well. After all the distance, he carried the ball 40 odd meters, nearly 50 meters, really, because of the way he arced his run. But look, there was many positives. 5 wins in a row, Matt. We haven't seen Limerick do that for a while. I think back to last time they won the league. Actually, is the last time they managed something like that. Things are looking good. What it does now, we've mentioned Cork there a few times. It has set up the most mouth-watering league final I can recall in Limerick's history. I know Cork will say that they had a mouth-watering one with Tipperary last year, but geez, it could be one of the most eagerly anticipated league finals, I think, ever. And
I think they haven't met in the league final since 1980.
Yeah, but just as a general, league final, no matter what the pairing, this will be right up there with, two of the heavyweights, 2 of the favourites for all the honours this year, meeting in a league final. Neither side looking much really, as in looking to do anything but win all their games. There's no messing from either county going on. They both lost 1 game in the league. They won 5, and looks like they'll be all set to go toe to toe on Easter Sunday. So it'll, it's going to be a huge clash.
It will be an Easter Sunday special this year, Tom. Absolutely. And the narrative is still going around that this is part 3 of a 6-part episode. So, we'll have to wait and see.
Well, it's certainly part 3 of 4. It's the question then,
definitely do we get part 3 of 4, yeah.
Yeah, do we get a Munster final then in All Ireland?
Whether the other 2 will come to pass on that now is another question. But getting to the final, as we discussed here over the last 2 weeks, Tom, I think was hugely important, with Limerick having a bye in the first round of the championship. I think we needed that game in 2 weeks out from from the end of the group phase of the championship of the league. Had we been beaten, last Saturday evening. It would be a long way till you go down to Páirc Uí Chaoimh for the second round of the Munster Senior Hurling Championship, because we're having a bye in the first round. So it's a very, very good filler to have in there. And you know, the only downside of it a bit, Tom, is that Cork and Limerick will be meeting twice. From a Limerick point of view, 2 games in a row. Now Cork will have the little matter of a trip to Tip to deal with between the league final and the Cork Limerick game in the Munster Championship.
Yeah, but from Cork's point of view, now that you say it, like, what a trio of games: a national final against Limerick, then the All Ireland finals on the road, and then welcoming Limerick then to Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Like, I mean, wow, that's a tough schedule by any metric. And
but Tom, hurling is a beautiful game.
Yes, absolutely. Oh well, like, I mean, if those next 3 Cork games could make or break that team, and I'm not trying to say that to tee them up for anything. I'm just saying it genuinely could, because you could lose a league final, and in theory you could fail to win 2 Munster games and be on the back foot. So it's it's a really big. What's that going to be? Nearly 4 weeks or 5 weeks now for Cork. So really, really good, looking forward to see how that unfolds for them. Okay. Anything else to note on the game on Saturday night, or are we?
No, only
we well covered there.
We're glad to have it behind us. We're glad to have 5 wins in a row. When we were leaving Walsh Park after the first round, we'd have bitten the hand off you for this, and but I felt all the time like that first round game with Waterford, everything went right for Waterford on the day, and nothing really went right for Limerick. And I thought it was a misrepresentation of where the respective teams were, and I think that has been proved. Limerick are in the league final, Waterford are in Division 1B. Yeah. So
absolutely. No, you're right. Overall in the league, I know the league final, probably Limerick will go close enough to their strongest available team, but I think that's been the MO so far from John and Co. Not as much experimentation as we've seen in previous years.
No, and it's particularly in the last couple of games, striving to get what you would call a settled team. Now, it was a big call putting in Darragh Langan at full back.
Yeah.
No, I thought he did okay, and all the
it was a tough second half for a lot of Limerick players, and I think he did all right in the first half. In fairness, Galway were quite limited.
The general consensus is that Darragh Langan did well. You know,
look, if you're playing full back, Matt, and you don't concede a goal, the defense doesn't concede a goal, well, you must be doing some bit right.
But you still have the like of the 2 cases and
2 Morrises
and the 2 Morrises. Like John Kiley is going to have is going to have a bit of a selection headache.
Darragh O'Donovan is going to be nearer to return,
but Darragh will be unlikely to make it for the big final, although he may.
Listen to John Kiley last night, and he doesn't normally tell too many porkies. He was kind of saying we'll be close enough to the
what a boost that would be.
Yeah, even if you could get him back into the matchday panel, it would be a huge tip for it. But maybe I'm reading the room wrong, but I think the way that Limerick have approached the league is they've given guys jerseys and they've said, right, you hold on to it, and we won't be just giving it to any old fella, because in previous league years Limerick were coming in as All Ireland champions in a long year the year before, and it was kind of a case of, right, this fella will come out and we'll give your man a start, and very little of that this year. Haven't seen too many debuts. I know Hugh Flanagan has come off the bench a few times. Darragh Langan started the other day, Matthew Fitzgerald. Yeah. But other than that, Matt, it's been the men that we've
basically seen. Minimal.
Yeah. There has been rotation in some degree, but generally lads have held their berth. And how often have Limerick gone through a league campaign by using only one goalkeeper? Very few counties can say that. Limerick can say that. Nicky Quaid.
We were alternating the goalkeeper last year between Jason Gillan and Shane Dowling.
Yeah, and Nicky was nowhere to be seen with his injury. But yeah, you're right. There was rotation in every position 12 months ago. So certainly, in my opinion, a different angle of approach, and it's paid dividends certainly thus far. Okay, Matt, we will move to Camogie, and it was a trip to Dublin last weekend. You're already grimacing at the thought.
I am, because it was disappointing, Tom, and I'm desperate disappointed for David and the girls because they had by any yardstick, Tom, they had a very, very good Division 1B campaign. They got 3 wins out of 5. They should have at least got a draw with Clare as a minimum. Now the damage was done in Dublin in the first 20 minutes when Dublin raced into a 2-6 to no score lead.
Yeah,
But
game
full
over
credit
effectively, yeah.
Yeah, full credit to Limerick. They came back and they closed it, but the gap proved to be too big in the finish, and it deprived them of a Division 1B final game, league final game with Clare, and an opportunity of promotion to Division 1A, Tom. But if you look at it in the cold light of day, it may be a blessing in that they may need another year. This is a very, very young team. About 8 of them are under 23. So, and they'll be featuring in the under 23 championship when they go to Antrim the weekend after next. So it was a young team. David has done a great job with him. I think they need time. Certainly getting to Division 1B final, league final would have been a very, very good for them. But I'm not so sure that in terms of the stage of development that they're at, going into Division 1A so soon, Tom, I just don't think they might be ready for it.
Yeah.
So that's my considered analysis of it and my honest analysis of it. And I think there are, definitely this is a team with huge potential, and you have a great group of minors coming on after them, which will be coming through. They'll be available to next season. And so the panel is going to be getting very, very strong. Like Tom, five of the starting forwards and the senior team are under 23. Will be starting for the under 23 team.
That's not bad, in terms of age profile. It's a very young team, you're right.
Yeah.
Tell me this, it's league final, so it's between Clare and Dublin. So
Clare and Dublin, the very same as Clare and Dublin in the Division
1B hurling. Yeah.
final.
What's next for Limerick? Senior level is the Munster Championship, isn't it?
Munster Championship.
And the 23s in action.
The 23s championship is starting. It's starting this weekend. Cork are going to Galway, which is a repeat of last year's All-Ireland final. But you remember last year's that it was run the same weekend as the senior championship or the senior league, and players had couldn't play under 23 and play senior. Now that has been rectified this year, and the under 23 championship is going to be run now over April and into May, with the final set sometime in May. So Limerick will open their campaign, Tom, on Saturday week with a trip to Antrim.
Don't say it. I know what you're thinking. I know you long enough, Matt, now to know what you're thinking.
Trip to Antrim, Tom, full stop.
Yeah, Sinead. Right. Best wishes for that. But look,
now,
I think
the minors, the minors. There was a general belief that the minors were out of the minor championship. It is not so, but they have a mountain. They have a mountain to climb to stay in it. They lost 3 games all away from home, to Galway by 3 points, to Cork by 3 points, and to Tipperary by 2 points. And they beat Kilkenny at home, who are the All-Ireland champions, and who are the current leaders in the group of 6, with 4 teams to qualify for the semi-final. Now, the situation at the moment is Cork are on 3 points, Limerick are on 3 points. And the general belief was that, Cork are on 6 points, Limerick are on 3 points. Am I right there?
Limerick have 1 win, so
Cork beat Dublin.
I'll try and pull it here.
Cork have 6 points, Limerick have 3 points. That's it. Now, this Sunday, Limerick played Dublin in Mungret at 2:00. And and Cork play Kilkenny in Castle Road also at 2 o'clock. Now, the first thing that has to fall into place for Limerick is Limerick have to beat Dublin and Kilkenny have to beat Cork. But then there is the little matter. It's not going to be decided that the belief was that it was going to be decided by head-to-head, but my understanding now during the week, it was confirmed to me that it's been decided on scoring difference.
Right.
And if you recall, that is how the Galway got into the league final on scoring difference, because they had lost to Kilkenny on the head-to-head. So
Yes.
it's decided on scoring difference. Cork at the moment are plus 11. Limerick are minus 7.
Yeah, I'm just looking at it here. Yeah, Cork.
Yeah. So it's going to take an 18-point turnaround.
Mm.
Improbable, but not impossible.
Oh, sorry, no, I'm after dropping something there. But no, you're right. I'm just literally looking at the table. Yeah, Kilkenny, 3 wins in a loss. Galway, 3 wins in a loss. Tipperary, 3 wins in a loss. Cork, 2 wins, 2 losses. Limerick, 1 win, 3 losses. Dublin, 0 for 4. You just hope from that point of view, Dublin lacking any motivation in the game against Limerick, and Limerick can have a day of days in front of the post and maybe hit everything inside and do their bit of it, and then hopefully Kilkenny will want to top the group, and that's what Kilkenny need to do, is win to top the group. So things that from that point of view, things working out neatly for Limerick in my opinion. It's just a case, can that gap be bridged, with the two results?
That's what I'm saying, Tom. It's not impossible. No,
it's not. No, it still is a big amount to overturn in 60 minutes of Camogie, and sometimes Camogie games can be low scoring. So potentially Limerick will need to hit the ground running in Mungret. But remind me, fixture date and time, did you say?
2 o'clock in Mungret on Sunday.
2 o'clock on Sunday. So get out and support the girls if there's very little else on in terms of inter-county action around Limerick this weekend. So it could be an ideal opportunity to check out a quality minor team and their last known group game.
Tom, people must remember that this is the minor team that won the All-Ireland under 16 2 years ago. And you would have to say in the minor championship this year, to be drawn away to 3 big guns, certainly luck is not on definitely not on your side. They've played the entire campaign without Eve Cleary, who was centre back in the team last year, and they've played the last game in against Tipperary, and they will play on Sunday without her again. Cora Long, who was full back on the team last year and who was wing back this year, and both girls are a huge loss.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, you're dead right when you put it that way. Okay, Matt, we'll move to ladies action as well in terms of ladies football. I will go there next, and unfortunately, I think again a decent defensive showing by Limerick ladies last weekend. Was it 111 to 16? I have
111 to 15.
15, sorry, yeah, no, 6 in it is what I should say. Yeah,
it was a good performance by any yardstick, just at the risk of being repetitive like that. They've lost 12 frontline players from last year, so it's a completely new look Limerick team, and there are green shoots over the last 3 games. You will recall in round 2, they suffered a very, very heavy defeat to Antrim. Round 3 suffered a heavy, heavy defeat to Laois, who, by the way, Tom, are still in danger of being relegated with Limerick. But then you had a decent performance against Louth, a decent defensive performance, a decent performance against Clare, and now a decent performance against Down. And I'm sure John Lynch and his management team will have one eye, first of all, on defending the Munster Senior B Championship, which Limerick have won for the last 2 years, and which they will be playing Clare, who are, by the way, in the Intermediate Football Championship, and the second teams from Cork and Kerry. Now, Limerick won it, as I said, for the last 2 years. And, of course, he will definitely have one eye on the All-Ireland Junior Championship. And I think they will be going to Fermanagh on Sunday, not with great expectation. Fermanagh drew the first 2 games, lost the second 2 games, and won the last 2 games. So it's an unusual trajectory of their season so far. But I think Limerick would be going there, and it will be all about performance, Tom. And because the real business will say of Limerick are relegated. Their fate is Division 4 football next season. So they have got to move on. And like, John Lynch and his management team, Tom, were handed a very difficult hand when Pat O'Connor stepped away after the game against Roscommon, against Roscommon, and then were thrown in at the deep end. But certainly over the last couple of games, Limerick have been competitive, which is very, very, very positive. So we hope that they'll get the best on Sunday. It's on in Tempo Maguire's is the venue. Yes. I didn't have it at the time of going to press, but it's Tempo Maguire's is the venue.
Is it Teenmore Maguire's, no?
No, Tempo.
Tempo Maguire's, is it? Okay.
Tempo, yeah,
I was looking up my Fermanagh clubs last weekend for the men's match, Hadn't heard a lot of these clubs. Tempo Maguire is very good.
Yeah. If you look it up by Tom, you'll see Tempo Maguire's.
Oh, yeah, that's it. In Edenmore Lane, Tempo, County Fermanagh. There we go. So, very good. So best of luck to John and the ladies. And you never know.
Absolutely. It would be a major fill-up if they were to get a win up in Fermanagh.
Yeah. Fermanagh are at the business end of it, looking to get towards promotion, I believe. Are they? Am I right in saying that? Just out of it, are they?
It's a long shot.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah.
Louth and Antrim would appear to have those two positions sealed.
Have you? Limerick have their battles with Fermanagh down the years, albeit very much changed squads, I'm sure, in the interim. Okay, I think Emer Smith used to be the leading right there, if I have the name correct.
Still is.
It is, yeah. Oh, well, her fingerprints will probably be all over this one for Fermanagh, but we'll see how Limerick manage with her, indeed, her colleagues as the game plays out on Sunday. Matt, any other ladies' football news for us this week?
No, that's about it. The under-14s, A's and B's, are through to the respective Munster finals, both against Cork. The A's are through, and the B's are through in the Johnny Hayes tournament, which is for B teams. They're through, and those 2 finals are taking place on the 4th of April, Tom, I think. If I'm just looking at the calendar here, Saturday the 4th of April in the Mallow GA complex. So that's good news down there at under 14 level, and they've on the way. It was run on a blitz. 2 series of blitz, and one of the teams, the B team have beaten Cork and the A team have beaten Kerry. So, they're there on merit, and but they're playing Cork. That's the way it has worked out. They're playing Cork in both finals, and
we love taking the Rebels down a peg or two. So why not at under 14?
We'll have another look at it next week, Tom.
Very good.
Yeah.
Okay, moving to men's football this week, and unfortunately the R word will come up here again, relegation. The ladies and men's basically sinking almost simultaneously. We had, I suppose, held out a bit more hope that Jimmy Lee's side could do the business in terms of staying up. They did their bit on Sunday. They got a 1-point victory thanks to Roy O'Brien's 63rd minute 2-pointer. What a kick it was, to be fair. It was Limerick's 4th 2-pointer of the second half, as well as Tony McCarthy's goal to overturn what was a healthy enough deficit. They were 11 down, I think, at one stage just before half time. So they went from 11 down to win by a point. Almost at the same time, Matt, Clare hit the crossbar in Markovich Park when a point would have done. Sligo countered and they kicked the winner, and it was actually a hooter in operation up in the 8th county, and the hooter meant Limerick were gone, Sligo are safe, and Limerick are heading back to Division 4.
Yeah, Tom, very, very disappointing, but first of all, I want to salute Jimmy Lee and his management team. Tom, they were handed a poison chalice with injury this year. It's simply incredible. If you wanted to script it, an injury problem, Tom, you couldn't do it. Like at one stage, he lined out without 9 of his Tarleton Cup team. Like, and the expectation was for a good run in Division 3. Look at Wexford, Tom.
Yeah.
Into the Division 3 final. They came up with
who beat
we
Wexford twice?
We beat them. We beat
three
them
times
3 times
in a row.
We beat them in the league final. We beat them in the Tarleton Cup, and we beat them in the league this year. And they're in the Division 3 final. That'll give you an idea. But like Ian Corbett was gone. He was retired and having given great service. Josh Ryan, Darrow Hagan, long-term injuries. Emmett Richter played about 10 minutes of league football this year.
Darragh Murray gone.
This is the point I'm making. You had players that you would be expecting to step in and step up to the mark, like Darragh Murray and the Shukru brothers, all out injured. Yeah. Conall O'Dean comes in, plays very well in a game, out injured.
Comes back from injury, lasts like 5 minutes, gone again.
Last 5 minutes. Like Jason Hassett. You know, Bob Childs. Tom Childs didn't play for the first 3 or 4 games. Tony McCarthy was out injured. Peter Nash was out injured. Can you tell me Matt McCarthy was out injured? Can you tell me somebody that wasn't?
I think I unfortunately haven't had the time to do that. I'd say Jeffrey Alford is the only player.
I was trying to figure it out, and Jeffrey is the only one that I think that escaped the injury.
You didn't even mention Barry Coleman there, Matt. He missed 3/4.
Barry Coleman. Barry Coleman.
James Naughton hobbled off in the game.
James Naughton picking up knocks and probably, not 100% fit, trying to make up the numbers. But in the circumstances, and to finish 5 points and to finish so close to staying up, I think they've done a fantastic job. Yeah. And I say to people, do not judge our management team. Do not criticize our management team. They've done a fantastic job in dreadful circumstances.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. We'll just look at the game in a bit more detail for a second, but just as you look at the group, they're going down with Fermanagh. As you said, on 5 points. Fermanagh with going down with 1 win over Laois. Laois were the team for me that, like, I kind of don't know how they got it. They stayed ahead of Limerick. They were quite poor the first night against, an understrength Limerick team. Limerick drew with them. Limerick, now look, I was at the game. Limerick could have lost the game, but also Limerick both teams led in stoppage time and it ended in a draw. You've sneaked that result, opening day, you get a win on the road, and you're knocking Laois back a point. The second day, then, to be fair, I think Down probably deserved to beat Limerick, but Limerick were snatched. The point was snatched from Limerick the second day. So
I was with that match with Juno, and I honestly thought I wouldn't agree totally with you there. I thought Limerick, the way that they came back, I think they had done enough, and they certainly deserved the draw.
Yeah, well, I suppose the fact is
maybe Down were slightly the better team.
Yeah,
but like Tom,
I think Down
it matters, and that's up on the scoreboard, And going down the home straight there, right at the death, they hadn't it on the scoreboard. It was that late point.
Yeah.
That deprived Limerick of a point. And had you won in Longford, winning is contagious. You probably would have got the draw against Down.
If you'd won in Laois, I think you meant to say.
Won in Laois. My apologies.
Yes. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. But Limerick were probably well beaten by Clare, well beaten by Westmeath, narrowly beaten by Sligo, and it's Sligo and Laois are the two teams who escaped us. I know people will look and say, Laois.
Talking to Jimmy now, he seems to lament the Sligo result as a game that they could have won.
Yeah, they seem to have wasted a lot of opportunities with the wind. But as Tommy Stack, in fairness to him, was it Tommy Stack or was it someone else? I'm going to give it credit to Tommy Stack. He said, whatever it is about Sligo in Markovich Park, they are so hard to beat up there, as it proved again for Clare the weekend. Clare were 5 points up at one stage. They were 2 up at half time. They were leading in the final quarter. Yet Sligo managed to get their nose ahead at the front. And look, I suppose credit to them. I think they won 3 games, Sligo, all at home. They didn't
Tom, you talk about it, but we won a league and we were crowned league champions in Markovich Park.
Oh, I know that, yeah. But in this iteration of the Sligo team are tough to get the better of, in fairness to them.
Well, they're coming off two teams that won Connacht championships, Connacht under 20 championships, and reached an All-Ireland final. So, like that has to be a reservoir of good players up there. So,
For sure, yeah.
And like winning Connacht championships at any level is a rarity for Sligo. I only remember them winning one senior title. I think that was in '68. The great Mickey Cairns was in his prime at the time, and I don't think they've won it since the senior championship. And even provincial success is a scarce commodity in Sligo. But they did have back-to-back Connacht under 20 championships in the last couple of years, and one of them got to the All-Ireland final. So, there has to be good footballers up there.
There sure does, yeah. The game itself, Matt, as I said, Limerick played against the Gale in the first half, found themselves in all sorts of bother. Was it 11 points to 1 at one stage? Was it 13-3? Then Limerick, what's that? Yes, 10. Yeah, it went 14-3, and then Limerick got, by my reckoning, a bit of a fortuitous goal. But it actually, you couldn't believe the belief it gave them to get from 11 points back to 8. Before half time, you could just see Limerick heading into the dressing rooms underneath the stand now in McNeville, and there was you could sense the belief in them. The goal came about 2 or 3 minutes before the break, and they came out in the second half. They actually conceded the first score of the second half, but just hit the gas from there. And Eli Reardon, I must salute you. People are waxing lyrical about different players in different counties kicking 2-pointers off both feet. He kicked an exquisite point from his right, a single point from just outside the 20. Then he kicked a 2-pointer with his right. Then he kicked a 2-pointer with his left. So he kicked 5 in a row for Limerick. Then Peter Nash said, "No, I'm not letting you have all the glory." Peter Nash, Limerick on an advantage. Peter Nash carried the ball outside the arc and hooked it over his shoulder for another 2-pointer. Incredible stuff. And then Tony McCarthy said, "Well, I can't be letting you get all the glory now, Mr. Nash." So he drilled home a goal. And Limerick were level. Kind of ebbed and flowed from there. In fairness, Fermanagh came back and hit the front, and then when Limerick looked to have lost it, Danny Neville catches the ball, pops. I would only say a 2-yard hand pass to Rory O'Brien, who was in a slightly better position, and from the very top of the arc, kicks over a 2 to win it, and the whistle sounds. So if that isn't a good, I suppose, a bit of muscle memory to have now later in the year when the Dalton Cup rolls around, I don't know what is. And you'd really think that's a good bank for Limerick to build on.
Well, there's no guarantee that we'll be in the Talton Cup, Tom. You're running ahead of yourself there now.
Sure. Yeah, sorry. We're going to be Cork and Kerry.
Yeah, so but full credit to the players, the way that they have responded in difficult circumstances, the collective effort of the players and management, Tom. In the difficult circumstances that they found themselves in has been phenomenal. And we hope that, the injury that plagued Limerick this year will dissipate and, for God's sake, go away. And that we will make a quick return to Division 3, because certainly Division 4 isn't where we belong, because we proved that last year beyond any shadow of a doubt, Tom, when, we had 1 point after 2 games and still succeeded in getting promoted, beat Wexford in the Division 4 final, reached the Talton Cup final, Tom. Look, the trajectory was one way. And it's nobody's fault that we are in the situation that we're in now. And I would be hoping, although the like of Josh Ryan is not going to be back. I think the Talton Cup, if we're in it, Dara Hagan is unlikely to be back, or to be touch and go with him. But we need these big players. We don't know what the situation with him at Richter will be. You're talking about big players. You would hope that Barry Coleman will at last get a good run on it, because we certainly need him. Now, Darren Murray must be closing in at this stage, Tom.
Yeah, I haven't actually asked for an update, so I'm not overly sure. But
the situation with the Sugru brothers, I don't know either.
Yeah, the good news, Matt, we're speaking on the 25th of March. Limerick are not in action again until the 25th of April. And I know people would say, "Oh, I should want to build on that win over Fermanagh," but you actually don't, in regards to you want to seek in Limerick recharge, I suppose reload, because there's so many.
I thought we were out on the 12th, Tom, are we?
Sorry. Oh, hang on. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong calendar altogether. If they win the quarterfinal, they're out on the 25th. So forget what I'm saying. They're out again in 2 weeks. My God, I'm off the mark. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead to a Munster semi-final. But Limerick are playing Cork on the 12th in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. Cork have obviously a league final to come, so Limerick, I suppose, have that. From that point of view, will have the opposite of what they had last year, because you remember last year Limerick rolled from a league final. Limerick are going from a league final into
a Munster Championship.
Yeah, and it's Cork now. Well, I suppose it's fallen a bit nicer for Cork in that they have an actual gap, whereas Limerick had a 7 or 8 day turnaround. But look,
Cork will have 2 weeks, because the final is on this Sunday in Croke Park against Meath.
Yes. But look, it's going to be a tough task. Cork are going quite well, obviously, to factor in the league final and promoted back to Division 1. It's going to be a tough task, but there is still, I suppose, there's the volume of games is diminishing in the next month, is probably my overall point, and that Limerick can hopefully get a lot of those players back up to scratch, and and then ready for, invariably, in my opinion, Matt, a run at the Tailteann Cup. That's most likely, and it doesn't give me pleasure in saying it, but I would feel that Cork will have enough to beat Limerick and in Munster again. But look, we'll see. And maybe I'll be eating my words, and I'd gladly so if that's the case. But most likely, in my opinion, Tailteann Cup is on the horizon for Limerick.
Yeah. Probably, Tom, on the law of averages, definitely, and on current form, you definitely have to say yes. Tom, the under 21s bowed out of the Munster Championship. They suffered their second defeat of the campaign.
This time against Tip, New Win, was it?
Yeah, I was at it in New Win, and it's a lovely ground actually in New Win. It's the home of Rockwell Rovers, Tom, GA club, and it's very, very, very well appointed venue. Limerick got the worst possible start. Or should I say at the outset, Tom, that this injury plague is contagious, because John O'Grady had to name his side minus the spine of the team that lined out against the defence that lined out against Waterford. Matthew O'Connor and Andrew Carney were out through injury. Stephen Carney was nominated to win fullback instead of Matthew O'Connor. He had to cry off, and on D coming in. So that was 3 frontline defenders gone. And if that wasn't bad, Limerick conceded a goal after 90 seconds. But they came back great, Tom, and by half-time they led by 2-6 to 1-3. Aidan O'Shea, John O'Grady made a very, very important and a very successful switch in that he brought Patrick Phelan, his captain, out from full forward to midfield and sent in Aidan O'Shea. And Aidan O'Shea had the power inside in front of the square, of course, and he got 2 goals, and it was 2-6 to 1-3 at half-time, and it was looking well. And then for the third quarter, Limerick were holding on. Andrew Lyons from Newcastle West got 7 points, Tom, mainly from frees, including a 2-pointer. But Limerick were 4 points up at the 3-quarter stage. When it went off the rails, when the Tipperary captain, Liam Freeney, got 2 goals in the space of 4 minutes. And after that, Tipperary just piled on the scores, and they won for a finish 3-13 to 2-9. I think it was a bit of rough justice in Limerick. Possibly Tip, certainly on their second half performance, probably deserved it. But the upshot of the whole lot is that Limerick have already lost to Waterford and they've now lost to Tipperary, and they will play in the final group game on Saturday week against Clare in Mount Collins. Now, the Clare Waterford game, which was to go on in Leamy Bryan last Saturday at the same time as the Limerick game, that was postponed, and it is rescheduled for this Saturday. But as far as Limerick are concerned, it's a dead rubber. Limerick cannot get through to phase 2 of the Munster Championship. They have to settle for the under-20 B final, the John Cairns Cup, which Limerick have won for the last 2 years. And but it's a poor consolation, Tom, for not getting an opportunity to rub shoulders with the Cork and the Kerrys of this world.
Yeah,
But it is what it
we've
is.
missed out on that for a good while now, haven't we?
Yeah, if you win that, you go on to an All-Ireland B semi-final. There's a lot of football to be played in for the under-20s yet. They've definitely 2 more games, possibly 3 more games. Depending on how Clare get on with Waterford now on Saturday, that's a winner. That's a meeting of 2 first-round winners. And it's Waterford have home advantage in Lemmy Bryan. It'll be interesting the following weekend against Clare and Mount Collins. Lovely to see the game going to Mount Collins, Tom.
Yes.
The game went to New Inn last Saturday. The sky didn't fall down. No. I'm all for these games going out to these venues, Tom, and the same
Right.
goes for the hurling.
Yeah.
Same goes for the hurling. And absolutely delighted to see the game going to Mount Collins. I would have much preferred, of course, that there was a lot more riding on it than there is in that Limerick are out of the main championship. But it is what it is. But we'll be looking at that next week, Tom. But it's as far as Limerick are concerned, it's a dead rubber.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's well pointed out. It's the 3rd of April that they'll play Clare, and then they'll be into the B final on the 9th of
on the 9th, Tom.
April in Mallow again. Yeah,
the same night as the phase 2 starts.
Yeah. So we'll be able to see who Limerick's opponents in that will be. It's very much up in the air at this point.
Very much so. Yeah. Because all other 3 counties have wins.
Yeah, they do indeed. And Tipperary have their 2 games played, obviously. So, but they still have a possibility of sneaking into the top 2 if they beat Waterford. Matt, the minor footballers are in action, and you're talking about grounds and where these games have been played. Minor footballers throwing in 4 days' time, namely Sunday the 28th, Sunday afternoon, in Hannon GA Park in Latin. Bizarrely for me, Matt, this will be as close to a county game as the crow flies as I could possibly get. Now, unfortunately, I won't be there Sunday, but Limerick will face Tipperary in phase 1 of the Electric Ireland Munster GA Football Championship. So a decent little hop for Limerick heading over to Latin. So
it is, Tom, and it's like yourself. It's very close to me here, although I'll be unable to attend it as I'll be attending the Camogie game. But it's going to be very interesting. Limerick. Now I failed to discover how Tipperary fared in the Leinster minor football development, which Limerick participated in. But I can tell you what Limerick did, and they have silverware after it. They played Kilkenny in the first round in Ballylanders and had a big win over Kilkenny. They lost to Carlow in the second round away, but they had enough done to get to what they call the Tier 2 final against Wexford, who they beat by a point in the final to pick up silverware. So they'll be going into the game against Tipperary, and Latin is a very, very nice venue now, Tom.
Yeah, I was actually looking at it online the other day. Fine stand there, and
and I'm glad to see him getting a game there. Of course, it's the home club of Nicholas English,
the one and only.
Yeah, but yeah, like Limerick will have a bit of momentum going into the game. So now Tipperary won the Darrell Darcy Cup last year. Now the Darrell Darcy Cup is for it's for you get it if you win the final of phase 1 of the competition.
There isn't a final in the phase 1 of the 20s, but there is in the minors. So that's the distinction between them.
Yeah, like Limerick won it 3 years ago. Then under John Ryan. It'll be an interesting game. It's a first round, and in these tight competitions, Tom, round robins where there are just 4 teams, 3 games, very, very important to get off to a winning start, because we saw like what the defeat to Waterford did to the under 20s. So you'd be hoping, probably going into the lines, then a bit going into Latin, You know, home to Tipperary at home again. But yeah, I'd be expecting a good performance, and I'd be hopeful that we might get a win in it, Tom. But as I say, you don't know what the Tipperary team will be like. I know that they have 5 or 6 of last year's team. I have figured that out. But now, interestingly, the Tipperary are managed by Kevin Mulcahy, who was the Ballylanders senior football manager for the last 2 years.
Right. You'd be familiar with the Limerick football scene, so
he would know the Limerick football scene.
Yeah, okay. So it's that's the opener for the Limerick Miners this Sunday in Hannon GA Park in Latin. They'll then face Clare in Mount Collins in a week later, and then in round 3 they will head for Leamy Bryan in Waterford. So an opportunity, I suppose, for Limerick to get into the top 2 really, and that'll put them into phase 2. So that's the plan, and indeed
they put them into the Darrell Darcy Cup final and an opportunity to get silverware, and then it'll also be a ticket to phase 2, and the result of the Darrell Darcy Cup final will determine the series of matches they have in phase 2.
Yeah, so it's all about getting into that top 2 and see can you contest in the final. That would be the aim at this point. So wishing Garrett and the troops the best of luck at the weekend, and obviously I suppose a debut for a lot of players at I know they would have played in the development squads, but certainly minor and
inter-county championship. It's a debut. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, so a big opportunity for a lot of those players.
I think we've only one survivor from last year that I can find, Aaron Murphy from Father Casey's.
Right. Okay, so it's a really new look panel. So hopefully there'll be a pep in their step.
That's the nature of minor, Tom. Generally, it's seldom enough that you have 4 or 5 or possibly 6 survivors.
Yeah, certainly not players who played. There's probably players on the panels. Yeah, we'll see it with the minor hurlers.
Say 5 or 6, you're talking about even going down maybe to the extended panel.
Yeah, we'll see it with the minor hurlers now. There's a lot of them. About half this panel from last year, I think, is there this year, but not a lot of them played. A handful of them played, but look, we'll come to that in due course. They're in action as well in the next few weeks. Matt, the clock is fast running away from us. I think we've covered everything unless there's anything else with an axe to grind this week. But
Tom, don't be getting me going. Don't be getting me started.
Okay, brilliant to chat. We'll be previewing, of course, the league hurling final next week, and plenty more besides. But for now, we're signing out from Treaty Talk, and